Hello guys and welcome. My name is Fat. I'm a university student and I am here to talk about how to read, how to remember what you've read, and how to prepare for exam. Now if you're watching this video, you're probably a student and you'll probably be struggling with recalling what you've read. You find yourself going blank in exam and you're not really knowing why. Now this video is all about teaching you the best way to read and how to prepare to maximize your brain power in remembering everything that you've read. Now, first is to highlight these techniques that you're probably using, which is not so good. Now, one of which is highlighting. Highlighting means using your highlighting pen. There are several colors of highlighting pen, and like shading off those important details in your lecture notes. And it's a fun way of reading. It's nice. It's very how do you say it? It's very enjoyable. You enjoy doing it. It's an active form of reading, but it does not really contribute to how much of it gets to your brain. That is the simple truth. There are so many researches behind this that has proven that highlighting does not really contribute to memory retention. Another method is rereading. You're probably guilty of rereading. Most of us are. So rereading is just like rereading, but you read basically. There's no active or cognitive power in retaining it or recalling it. We just reread what we've read and we believe that it should stick in that manner. Now rereading works for some people, although going compared to very good techniques of reading, it only gives a very little percentage of what you could have gotten if you had used a better technique of reading. And so research proves that it is not so effective. Another method is summarizing and note-taking. Note-taking means, or summarizing is like just having a large lecture note and just trying to summarize or make a short note that summarizes everything within that lecture note. And you feel it's a very common way of reading, because even I myself use this method, because it helps you break everything down, summarize everything to simple bits that you can just look and go through. Now, in as much as this is a very active form of reading, it's a good behavior, it does not really mean that you are able to recall everything. Most especially because by summarizing, you removed certain details from it, and so by so doing, it might be difficult to reproduce them in large amounts in exam, which is a very important thing. And so summarizing and note-taking, it's not so good or effective when it comes to recalling and memorizing or memory retention. Now that we've talked about the methods that we mostly use which are not effective, let's talk about the effective one. Active recall has been proven by so many research in psychology that it is a very effective method of reading. Now what this means is that retrieving information from the memory. When you read, you retrieve the information or the data you've placed in memory by actively recalling what you've read, and you do this over time and it sticks better. Now researchers have proven that by recalling strengthens data in our memory, strengthens our memory of that data. Now this is even more effective than just placing data into our memory. In majority of us students, we are guilty of just reading and placing stuff into our brain without really having to recall them until the day of the exam, and when you're faced with your papers, and then you begin to ask your brain what can you remember from what we've read. Actively recalling what you've read enables you to remember it better and faster. It also helps in time management in exam. So active recall is a very good effective method of reading. Now how do you apply active recall? First, we could use flashcards. Now flashcards, particularly me, I use a mobile app called Flashcard World. Flashcard Words, you enable you to set series of flashcards and categorize your courses differently. It has a very nice interface, and this flashcard is all about writing questions, placing the answers at the back, and then when you go through them, you rate each flashcard depending on how well you're able to recall it. If you're able to recall it very well, you can say easy, and then the app will basically skip that questions and maybe ask you towards the ending of every session you take that flashcard. If it's very hard, if you struggle to remember the answer to that question, then you rate it as hard, and then the flashcard will keep asking you that question more often whenever you go through the flashcard or you revise. So it's a very good form of active recall. You are faced with questions instead of just seeing answers. You are faced with questions and you have to create answers from what you've learned over the time you read. Apart from these techniques I'm giving, any behavior that helps you recall things you've read is a very good way of active recall. For example, teaching. By teaching people stuff, you tend to recall better, because during the process of teaching people stuff, you are retrieving your information, or you're retrieving what you've read, and so it tends to stick better in your memory. Now, another method is the closed book note taking. Closed book note taking means that you read a book or you read a concept, a lecture, and then you're done, you close it, and then you take a piece of paper and try to reconstruct the notes all over again. The way we actually do it is that you read a note, then when you're done, you write what you remember from the note and you compare it to see what was left out, and then you add the corrections to it. So by doing this over time, you can basically recreate the whole notes in your exam hall and wow your lecturers. And lastly, we have questions instead of notes, which we also call the Cornell note-taking method, which means during lectures, instead of just writing notes, you're writing questions. Most of the time you can get it from the objectives. You highlight out all the objectives, the questions. That means by the end of the lecture you should have known all of this, and then by the time you're done with the lecture, you try to answer all of these questions. You understand? And this helps you to strengthen the memory of what you've learned during the lecture. It's a very good form of active recall. Thank you very much for watching this video to the end. If you've actually understand or learned something new, please leave a like in the video and also consider subscribing to the channel. My name is Fad, and until next time, bye for now.